Imagine a religion so old that when the pyramids of Egypt were already ancient history, this was already thousands of years in the making. A religion with no single founder, no single holy book, no single moment of creation. A religion that has survived invasions, empires, colonization, and the rise and fall of entire civilizations. And still, today, it is the third largest religion on earth, with over 1 billion followers. Most people can name the founder of Christianity. They can name the founder of Islam, the founder of Buddhism. But Hinduism? Nobody founded it. And that's not a weakness. That's the entire point. By the end of this video, you're going to understand something about Hinduism that most Hindus themselves struggle to put into words. Stay with me. Picture this. It's 3000 BCE. You're standing on the banks of a great river in what is now Pakistan. Around you is one of the most advanced cities on earth, running water, sewage systems, grid-planned streets. These people are trading with Mesopotamia. They have art, they have ritual, they have a spiritual life. This is the Harappan civilization. And when archaeologists dig it up thousands of years later, they find something that stops them cold. A small carved seal, no bigger than your palm, showing a figure sitting cross-legged, perfectly still, eyes half closed, surrounded by animals. It looks exactly like someone meditating. Some call this figure Proto-Shiva, a god that won't be fully named for another 1,000 years, but is already being worshipped. They also find ritual bathing tanks, sacred pools for purification, the same practice that Hindus still perform today before entering a temple. So here's the thing nobody tells you. Hinduism didn't start with a book or a prophet. It started with people, real human beings trying to make sense of existence, sitting still, going inward, reaching for something they couldn't name. Around 1500 BCE, this civilization collapses. We still don't fully know why. And a group called the Aryans migrates into the subcontinent from Central Asia, bringing their own language, their own rituals, their own gods. Two worlds collide. Two spiritual traditions start bleeding into each other. And out of that collision, Hinduism is born. Largely fine, small punches added. The Aryans bring with them the Vedas, the oldest religious texts still in active use anywhere on the planet. 4 collections of hymns, rituals, and cosmic poetry. The oldest, the Rig Veda, contains over 1,000 hymns. And here's what's wild. For centuries, none of it was written down. It was memorized, teacher to student, breath to breath, generation to generation. Scholars say the oral transmission was so precise, it was more accurate than most handwritten manuscripts. The religion of this period looks nothing like the Hinduism of today. No temples, no statues, no idol worship. Instead, fire. Massive outdoor fire rituals called yajnas, performed by priests called Brahmins. The gods are forces of nature. Indra, the thunderstorm. Agni, the fire itself. Varuna, the moral order of the cosmos. This is also when society gets structured into 4 groups. The Varnas. Priests, warriors, merchants, laborers. Originally a division of labor. What it became over centuries is a story with real darkness in it, and we'll get to that. But first, the Vedic age produces something that changes everything. A series of philosophical texts called the Upanishads. And this is where Hinduism stops being ritual and becomes awakening. Give philosophy a human face. Forget the lecture hall version of this. Let me show you what actually happened. Imagine a man. He's walked away from his village, away from his family, away from every comfort. He's sitting under a tree in the forest, and he's asking a question that won't let him sleep. What am I? Not my name, not my body. What is the thing that is actually aware right now? This is where the Upanishads come from. Not from kings or conquering armies, from people sitting alone with the most terrifying question a human being can ask. And what they find, after years of silence, of discipline, of looking inward, shocks them. They find that the thing looking and the thing being looked at are the same. They call the universal consciousness Brahman, the ground of all existence. Not a god with a beard on a throne, something more like the fabric reality is woven from. And they call the inner self, the awareness inside you, Atman. And then they say the thing that blows the whole system open. Atman is Brahman. Your soul and the universe are the same thing. You are not a tiny, isolated being in a massive, indifferent cosmos. You are the cosmos, looking at itself through your eyes. 3 words in Sanskrit. Tat tvam asi, that thou art. Now, not everyone buys this. Around this same time, a prince named Siddhartha sits under his own tree and reaches his own conclusions. He becomes the Buddha. He rejects the caste system, rejects the Vedic rituals, starts his own path. Jainism breaks away too. The Vedic establishment is being challenged from every direction. And Hinduism does something that will define it forever. It doesn't fight the challenge. It absorbs it, shifts, evolves, grows new branches while keeping the roots. That's the move it will make again and again across 4,000 years of history. Already strong, light trim only, keep as written, it's the best section. Just cut the TV anecdotes slightly for pace and keep the Gita explanation exactly as is. Build the tension before the release. Here's something that almost never gets said about Hinduism. For most of its history, the ordinary person had almost no access to it. The Vedas were in Sanskrit, a language most people didn't speak. The rituals were controlled by Brahmin priests. The philosophy was for scholars. If you were a farmer, a weaver, a woman of lower caste, the deepest parts of your own religion were essentially locked behind a door you weren't allowed to open. And then, between 600 and 1700 CE, something extraordinary happens. People kick the door down. It's called the Bhakti movement, and it doesn't come from the top. It comes from the bottom. A weaver named Kabir, born to a Muslim family, raised in a Hindu city, starts writing poetry so sharp it cuts through every religious wall ever built. He says, Ram and Allah are not enemies. The people who argue about them are. He gets persecuted by both Hindus and Muslims. He doesn't stop. A teenage girl named Mirabai is married off to a prince. She doesn't want a prince. She wants Krishna. She writes hundreds of devotional songs, scandalous, ecstatic, completely unashamed. Her in-laws try to poison her. She survives. She keeps singing. Today, she's one of the most beloved poets in Indian history. In the South, Tamil saints called the Alvars walk from temple to temple, composing poetry in the common tongue. Not Sanskrit, Tamil, the language of the street. Their songs are still sung in temples every single day. The Bhakti movement says something radical. You don't need a priest. You don't need Sanskrit. You don't need to be the right caste or the right gender. You just need love. Pure, direct, personal love for God. And just like that, Hinduism opens up. Not because the institution decided to, because the people demanded it. Keep the spiritual thread alive through colonialism. When the British arrive in India, they do something almost comical in its arrogance. They look at this 4,000-year-old living tradition, with its thousands of texts, its hundreds of gods, its dozens of philosophical schools, its billion daily rituals, and they say, we don't understand this, therefore it must be primitive. They call it superstition. They call it idol worship. They try to map it onto their own categories. Where's the founder? Where's the creed? And when it doesn't fit, They decide something must be wrong with Hinduism. But here's what actually happens. Their pressure creates a pressure cooker, and out of it come some of the most powerful minds in modern Indian history. Ram Mohan Roy looks at his own tradition and says, "Some of what we've inherited is wisdom, and some of it is cruelty." He campaigns against sati, the practice of burning widows. He pushes for a rational, ethical, universalist Hinduism. He's called a traitor by some, a visionary by others. He is both. And then comes Vivekananda, Chicago, the Parliament of World's Religions. A young monk from Calcutta walks to the microphone. He has almost no money. He knows almost nobody. He opens his mouth and says, "Sisters and brothers of America." The crowd erupts. Standing ovation before he said a single thing about religion. He goes on to tell the Western world, "Your religions are not in competition. They are rivers flowing to the same ocean. The Danta, yoga, the philosophy of the Upanishads, he places it all on the world stage." He doesn't just defend Hinduism, he exports it. And back home, Gandhi takes the Bhagavad Gita into the streets. Non-violence, ahimsa, as a political weapon. Do your duty. Act without attachment to the outcome. He is fighting the British Empire with 3,000-year-old philosophy. And winning.
Already solid, keep mostly as is. Keep the Kumbh Melastat. The caste system honesty, the global spread. It works. Just tighten the ending. Land it with energy, not a lullaby. So, we started 4,000 years ago with a figure on a carved stone seal, sitting still, eyes half closed, reaching for something. And we end here. In a world where 1.2 billion people still light incense, still chant the same syllables, still sit still and go inward, following a thread that was never cut. No founder, no single book, no headquarters, no pope. Just an unbroken human conversation about the biggest questions anyone has ever dared to ask. And here's the wild part. It's still going. Every time someone rolls out a yoga mat in Manhattan, or recites a Sanskrit mantra in Tokyo, or sits in silence in a temple in Tamil Nadu, they are pulling on the same thread. The Upanishads said, "You and the universe are not separate things." 4,000 years later, quantum physicists are saying something surprisingly similar. Maybe those people sitting under trees weren't primitive at all. Maybe they were just early. Drop a comment. What part of this hits you the hardest? And if you want the entire history of Buddhism, Islam, or Christianity done the same way, let me know. I'll see you there.